A warm good morning to one and all present here. So, this Sunday morning, we all have gathered here to talk novel migrations. And today, amidst us, we have Dr. Chitra to talk about the novel migrations. Uh, as an opening note, I now call upon Joycey, one of the coordinator of our club, to introduce Dr. Chitra to the gathering. Thank you. Dr. Chitra Venkatachalam, she is a retired associate professor of English at Etharaj College for Women. She has a teaching experience of 33 years. She was a guest faculty at Loyola College, IIT Madras, University of Madras, NIFT Chennai. She is currently Counselor of Wellbeing in Libba. She was a faculty at International Institute of Film and Culture owned by director Vetri Maran. She writes scripts, dialogues, lyrics, short stories, and poems in Tamil and English. She has written the dialogues and lyrics for the forthcoming Tamil feature film Konjam Coffee, Konjam Kadal. She do voice overs for documentaries and corporate films. She loved to read and write. She loved music and art. She loved children. She is deeply concerned about environmental issues. Her areas of interest are environmental studies, Native American studies, film studies, poetry, and Zen Buddhism. Now, I would like to invite Chitra ma'am to do the review. Thank you.
Should I? So good morning and a warm welcome to this morning's book club session. I've been wanting to come here for a very long time, but then because it's on a Sunday and we work from Monday to Saturday and it's very tiring work that we do. So on Sundays is personal time, so it's very difficult to leave the home and come away. But I've always wanted to come here, be with all of you and meet you. And I must thank Olivannan sir for giving me this opportunity and to Joycey for persuading me to come here today. And she's been at it for a very long time. Ma'am, அடுத்த வாரம் வருவீங்களா? It's not that I'm busy. அப்படி பிஸியெல்லாம் ஒன்றும் கிடையாது, but still, because the nature of my work is quite draining. Liba works from 8:30 in the morning till 8:30 in the night because it's a business school, and we also work on Sundays sometimes. For the past 1 month, I have worked every Sunday. So we have some event or the other, so it is very difficult to get away from work. So adhanala da there was this delay, and I'm glad that I came here today. When I told Olivannan sir that I just thanked you, sir. I'm going to thank you again because you're here. So for giving me this wonderful opportunity. He's been a good friend and a great motivator. And I keep seeing the messages every day, from the Zoom meeting is open, please join, the book club meeting is on and all that. Andha madri oru passion and dedication. I think, we need a leader like that to take the youth forward, to keep, motivating them to read and, introduce them to new concepts, new ideas, new way of thinking and all that. So this is a book that I thought I would share with you because a month or so earlier when Joycey asked me, I said I was in the process of finishing the book and I thought I would share that. Then in this 1 month I had misgivings. Will everybody like this book as much as I liked it? Because it's about the environment, it's about climate change, a very relevant topic today. But எல்லாருக்கும் அது பிடிக்குமா எனக்கு I was not sure. But I thought பிடிக்குதோ பிடிக்கலையோ, it's like medicine. We need to take something that will cure us of our illness, right? We also understand that the planet as it is now is not well. It is sick. So we are living in a sick planet, and who caused the sickness or illness? We, right? My generation and the generation before that, I think. So we need to apologize to the younger generation, who are now inhabiting an Earth, a planet, which is not as it should be, right? So I'm just going to read this Native American prophecy, a Cree Indian prophecy. Cree is a tribe, a Native American tribe. And I did my research in Native American literature because I liked the way they thought and they wrote and they lived in communion with nature. For them, nature was everything, right? And the spoken word is everything. Thinking is everything. So once you're able to think correctly, speak the right words, your body is healed, your mind is healed, right? And if you can live simply and in the right way, the earth gets healed, which is not what we're doing now. Talk about that a little later, and then introduce this Cree Indian prophecy, which was probably, done several years ago. It says, only after the last tree has been cut down, only after the last river has been poisoned, only after the last fish has been caught, only then will you find that money cannot be eaten. And that's what we're doing now. Deforestation. We've drained all the rivers. The soil is sick. We're not able to grow back healthy crops, right? So there is a large movement, even though it is done by one individual, people are joining in, save the soil. We need to save the soil. So there is this large, movement or momentum towards trying to save the planet and plastic, reduce, reuse, recycle. We should have started some time back, but we've started a little too late. But it's never too late. We can always go back and try to alter our ways of living and probably change the planet. Now, this long prelude, இவ்ளோ முன்னாடி ஏன் பேசுறேன் அப்படின்னா, the book is about that. Migrations is about climate change. It is set in the near future where the world is still recognizable. இன்னும் கொஞ்ச நாள் போனா maybe we won't recognize the world. For people who have lived outside India for some time, when they come back to Chennai, they don't recognize Chennai. Chennai with all its malls, Chennai with all its metro network, unrecognizable, Ilya. This is not the Chennai that I knew. This is not the Chennai that I grew up in. I studied in Ethiraj College. I'm a proud student of Ethiraj College, and I have my students sitting here to vouch for that wonderful college. I'm a student of Mount Road area. Thank you. So அந்த ஏரியால தான் நான் சுத்திட்டு இருந்திருக்கிறேன். And I've traveled by bus, but இப்போ பஸ் ஏறணும்னு நினைச்சாலே பயமா இருக்கு, ரோட்ல வரணும்னு நினைச்சாலே பயமா இருக்கு, because so much of pollution, so much of dust. Children are falling sick every day. As I travel to work and back, I find that இப்போ lot of people waiting outside clinics, doctors' clinics, because there is a kind of viral fever that's going around. We just had the pandemic in 2020, and this particular novel, Migrations, was written in 2020. It is written by an Australian writer called Charlotte McConaghy. And in Migrations, we know migration means moving from one place to the other. It could be human beings migrating from one country to the other, to one place to the other. Here she talks about, it is very symbolic. The title itself is very symbolic. This is the book. Right? The cover of design of the book itself is in a kind of pale blue with some ice floating here and there, because she talks about the migration of okay. So she talks about the migration of birds from one polar region to the other. And the particular kind of bird that she's talking about, particular breed of bird she's talking about, is what we call the storm petrel or the Arctic tern. Right? And these birds, ornithologists will tell us, that have the longest journey. They start from the Arctic and they travel up to the Antarctic. every year. During peak winter season, they go down to the Arctic, which is slightly more bearable for them. They cannot survive in very hot climates. They'll have to survive in a climate that is slightly less chill than the Arctic. So from the Arctic, they go down to the Antarctic, which is two ends of the globe, right? And then they come back. So in their lifespan of say 20, 30 or 35 years, they probably make journeys of 25,000 miles every year, which amounts to about 3 to 4 trips to the moon and back. Birds traveling that much. And then suddenly there is this fear, that these birds are disappearing. And why are the birds disappearing? Because they do not have food. And what is their food? The fish in the ocean. The fish in the ocean have all been, or they've all died because of oil leak, polluting the ocean, plastic in the ocean. So the fish have all died and there is no food for the birds. So the birds are going extinct. The story is fictional and it belongs to that particular genre in literature which is called speculative fiction. Students of literature will understand that in current trends there is something called speculative fiction. Speculation, now we know, we try to speculate, we try to surmise, we try to assume something will happen. The way things are going, we have intelligence, we have chat GPT. Are we going to write or some machine going to write for us? Activity going to help or will it have any effect at all? The world looks promising, it also looks very scary, right? So in a context like that, when we look at the world and its changing scenario, we're also looking at how climate change has affected every aspect of human existence. And it is a vicious cycle. The planet is getting hotter, so we're using more air conditioners. And because we're using more air conditioners, there is more carbon emission. So how do we reduce this carbon footprint? We keep talking about net zero. We keep talking about carbon neutrality. But on the other hand, we also realize that certain places in the world, in the globe, have already been declared water zones. Cape Town has no water at all. And people tell us that probably for another 60 years, I can say that I will not live. I will not be around to see that terrible day, but that is not enough. My children will be there, my grandchildren will be there, my great grandchildren will be there. And I don't want them to inherit a planet which does not have water. We have water resources that will last only for another 60 years, which is a normal human lifespan. And that is scary. That's alarming. So we need to do, which is why we're trying movements like Save the Soil, reduce plastic, try to live minimalistic, simple living, don't throw away rubbish, try to reduce up with electric vehicles so that there is less pollution, less carbon emission. So this is the premise in which she sets the novel. So speculative fiction tries to talk of what is possible and also the impossible, tries to look at what is happening, what can happen, and what might happen if we are not careful, right? So in speculative fiction, we have different types. The most positive type of speculative fiction is what we call solar punk fiction. Solar because the name itself will tell you sunny, sunshine, bright, optimistic, positive. The other types of fiction that belong to speculative fiction are not so positive. It's cyberpunk, you have dystopic fiction, horror, and fantasy adventures, which can, like you see, Wakanda Forever and things like that, which also borders on it. You probably think the world will end up looking like that. God forbid. I still like my trees and plants and flowers and bees and birds and clouds and the sky and the rainbow. I don't want to live in a world like Wakanda Forever, right? I don't want to live in a digitized, artificial world. My own native natural intelligence should be enough. I'm not at all I love science fiction, but a different kind of science fiction. But that is the world that we're heading into, we're moving into, right? So the story talks about this girl called Franny, Franny Lynch or Franny Stone. Her maiden name is Franny Stone, and she's married to a lecturer called Nia Lynch. She lives in Australia, her mother does not get along with the father. For some reason, the father, whose name is Dominic, believes that the child is not his. He thinks that his wife has betrayed him, and so they do not get along. So the mother lives alone with the daughter, and then she decides to move back to Ireland, which is her hometown. So with little Franny, the mother Iris comes back to Ireland, to a place called Galway, or Galway, as they might say it. And Franny, like most of us, wants to run away from reality. When right now, most of us have this escape route into our telephones, into our mobile phones, right? When things get very boring, immediately we go back to our phones, and then there is endless scrolling. You watch one YouTube video, that will lead you to another, and to another, and to another. So, end of the day, you've watched a lot of content on the phone, right? So, it's an escape route. It prevents you from engaging yourself with the harsh realities of life. You're lost in a world of fashion, of glamour, of glitz, of yes, YouTube also has wonderful content, but very rarely do we go into that, right? What attracts us more is probably film news or some kind of a gory story that engages our attention. So that kind of an escape from reality for Franny, who grew up watching her parents fight, not being able to understand why the parents are not together, for her, running away from home is an escape. And she's literally like a bird. You cannot tie a bird to one place. A bird will not sit in one place, right? Even a crow, even if it is not caged, it will sit on a branch for some time and then fly to another branch and then it comes back. It likes that freedom of movement. So, which is what Franny also does. But her mother, who has her own demons to fight, she's lonely, she's unhappy, and so she does not want Franny to run away from home. So, she keeps threatening her. One day, when you run away, you'll face the consequences. You'll find that I'm not there. So one day, Franny does run away, only to come back to see that her mother has kept the word. Her mother hangs herself on a tree in front of the house, and Franny is not able to understand that or accept that. I know it sounds grim, and I'm sorry to do that on a Sunday morning, but then the novel is about Franny, who probably symbolizes the Arctic tern, right? So because she's not able to accept her mother's death, she tells people that her mother's gone somewhere, but then she's forced to go and live with her paternal grandmother, Edith, who does not care for this child. Just like the father, she also does not care for the child. So she has this very turbulent, torturous existence with the grandmother. Then she realizes that she cannot live here for very long. She goes back to Ireland. And there, she works as a janitor in a university where during one of the lectures, she meets her husband, who's a lecturer there, Neil Lynch. He is an ornithologist, so he talks about birds. He's very concerned about birds and their flying patterns, migratory patterns, and also concerned about how, certain species of birds are going extinct. So she gets attracted to him, they're drawn to each other, they marry and lead a life together. But Franny is like this bird who cannot rest in one place. Even there, she has these small episodes where she leaves home, leaves him alone, and Neil is not very happy about that. And then she conceives, is carrying this girl child who is stillborn. So that again, the death of a baby, the death of a child, even before it can see the world, kind of is very ominous. It kind of foretells or forewarns what the world is going towards. Naturally, Neil is very upset, so is Franny, and that causes a lot of tension between the husband and wife. And once again, Franny runs away from home for a very brief period. When she comes back, Neil has had it. He said, this is enough, and he breaks up the marriage. That is again very devastating for her. So while they're together and he's already told her that he's breaking up, she's driving a car, and I don't even know why I chose this book, but then I have to tell you what I need to tell you about climate change. Because as ominous as it sounds, this is how the world is, This is what it's heading towards, so we need to be careful. So she rams her car into another car, ends up killing her husband and the other driver. So she is sent to prison, literally like a caged bird, and then she's let out on parole. So while she's in the jail, she goes through this thinking process. The story, the narrative itself shifts from the present to the past to the, and once again back and forth, just like a bird flying from one branch to the other. Then she realizes that she remembers what her husband had told her about these Arctic terns, small white birds which fly from the Arctic to the Antarctic on a long migration of 25,000 miles, and then come back, during that, after the winter is over. And he tells her that, that species is going extinct. There aren't too many Arctic terns anymore. So where is the balance in life? When one species goes extinct, there is a huge vacuum that is created. So then Franny decides that she will go and try to track the last, what she thinks is the last migration of a batch of Arctic terns from the Arctic pole to the Antarctic. So she goes to Greenland, to a place called Taslik in Greenland. And she puts trackers on few of the Arctic terns so that she can track them right up to the Antarctic. But it's not enough if she puts a tracker, she also has to travel. So the journey is not just for the birds, the migration is not just for the birds, but it is also for her. She has to travel from Greenland right up to Antarctica, to the Weddell Sea in the Antarctic. So, but it's not an easy task because she tries to find people who will take her, and she meets with this captain, a drunk captain called Ennis, who is the captain of a fishing ship, called Sagani. And Sagani, again, is a very, very meaningful symbolic name because Sagani is the name that the Eskimos give to the raven, to the black crow, which is very sacred to the Native American community. The Eskimos, or Inuits as they're called, are Native Americans who settled in the northern part of America, in Alaska and Canada, before they all filtered, the tribe filtered into the rest of America. They liked the climate and they stayed there, and they were called Inuits, and in English we call them Eskimos. So they had given this name to the raven as Sagani. And for them again, the raven is going extinct. So it's very symbolic that she, tries to talk her way into finding a place in this vessel, shipping vessel, a fishing vessel, which is moving on the high seas. So she tells the captain, I will show you where the fish are. I know the places in the oceans. I have studied the oceans. And let me take you to find places where you can find all these fish. But please take me to the Arctic zone. And for some reason, Ennis likes her. And he also has his own backstory of conflicts with his wife. And he finds something very appealing about and earnest, about Franny. So he takes her on the ship. And as they're setting out, there are a lot of crew members on the ship. Some of them are not very happy about this journey, which again reminded me of this poem Ulysses by Lord Tennyson, where he talks, Ulysses sets out on the Greek hero Ulysses, or Odysseus, sets out on this long journey. And he's constantly traveling, constantly seeking new adventures. And even when he's advanced in age, when he sets out on a journey, the crew on the ship tell him that they're tired and they don't want to travel anymore. So he's looking for like-minded people. The entire poem Ulysses is about that, where he talks about, I want to find like-minded people who will travel with me, who will want to find that knowledge which is ever receding. The more you gather knowledge, there is more to be gathered, right? So it is like an ever receding horizon. And the poem is this part of the story is very resonant of that. So she convinces them, she makes a few friends among the crew. And when they are in, one of the crew members gets, hurt by a cable which electrifies him, and he's critically ill. So they have to dock at Newfoundland near Canada, and they have to put him in a hospital. And while he's in the hospital, there is this news which says that all shipping vessels are banned. They cannot go out into the high seas, which means it's a big risk for them to set out on the high seas. So the other crew members are not willing, but Ennis and Franny alone get into another vessel and set out. So the journey the entire story is about how she manages to finally reach the Weddell Sea. And when she reaches there, she finds, and she actually carries her husband's ashes, because that little part I forgot to tell you, as grim as it may seem, she spends some time in her husband's house with the mother-in-law, who tells her that Niall had told her that when he died, and his ashes should be, scattered in the Arctic region, in the ocean, where the Arctic terns live, in the Antarctic, where they come to migrate. So she carries this little urn of ashes along with her, and she has decided that when she reaches the Antarctic, she will scatter the ashes and also, submerge and drown and kill herself and merge with her husband, her child, and her mother and other things. But finally, when she reaches there, because for her, the future has no promise. The oceans have all dried up, there are no fish. I'll read a few passages from the book when I finish, because it starts with that. There are no animals, there is nothing in the ocean. Can you imagine a future like that, when there is no water, there is no breeze, there are no trees, there are no flowers? So everything for her seems very bleak. Life itself becomes very, very meaningless. And so when she reaches the Antarctic, she suddenly sees, a lots and lots of Arctic terns, which means they have actually managed to migrate and reach the Antarctic region. That gives her hope. So when she, submerges or immerses herself in the waters along with the urn of ashes, she hears Niall's voice telling her that she should come back and live and try to see more birds. So with that, she comes back to the surface. And what actually started off, on a hopeless note, I know the story sounded very grim, talking about death and ashes and all that. That's one part, reality of life. What is important about life, and what the novel actually tells you, is the quality of resilience which all of us have. We went through a pandemic and we are here today. The pandemic is almost a memory now, right? It is there, the vestiges are there somewhere, but it's not so grim as it was in 2020 or 21, right? It's a memory that we would like to wipe out forever. So there is hope if we are resilient. There is hope if we can rebuild our lives. There is hope if we can realign our lives. There is hope if we can try to live differently, not the same old way, but to try to eat the right kind of food, live the simple, right way, you know, build immunity into your body, just as you need to build immunity into the body of the earth by right living. So the novel is about the resilience. Just imagine a small bird with a very short wingspan being able to fly 25,000 miles every year on one journey and back. And if a bird can do that and still survive all the cataclysmic changes that go on in the surface of the ocean, the storms, the cyclones and the rain, whatever it is, the snowfall, it still manages to reach and come back. So does it very purposefully, in a very, very Zen-like mode, very focused. The only purpose is to get away from the cold and find safety for oneself and for the family. Perhaps they fly together. So this novel talks about resilience. This novel, as I said, it's a speculative fiction, but it's important uh, for those who are interested in environmental fiction, because we're talking about climate change. We are talking about how we can, bring back the earth to its original beauty, right? There are people who have been time and again talking about this, talking about how we are all interconnected, how we all need to support and sustain each other. There is this Austrian American physicist called Fritjof Capra, who in his Web of Life talks about this world is literally like a web. You and I are connected, and we are connected to some tree, to some bird, to some animal, to some mountain, some way. And the damage that we cause to something there will affect us, will impact us, right? Because it's like a spider's web. If you cut one strand, the entire web will collapse. So that is probably, and I would always think of, this didn't start now. You'll be surprised. Some of you might already know, but do I have another 5 minutes? This environmental movement perhaps started in 1962, as way back as 1962 in America. When a writer called Rachel Carson wrote a book called The Silent Spring, because she noticed, she was doing some scientific experiments and she looked around her and she saw that the pesticides that were being used in crops were causing a lot of damage to the human system, causing damage to the environmental situation. So she wrote this literally like a treatise on environmentalism, a lot of essays, articles on the abusive use of pesticides and insecticides. It created a stir. It caused a lot of difficulty for her because the articles were not very well received by everybody. But then it had its impact on the society. So the environmental laws were enforced and the use of DDT was banned in America. So the Silent Spring, she calls it the Silent Spring because it starts off with, the rest of it is articles and essays, but it starts off with a fable or a story with a moral, where she talks about a small village where, the birds song, they've all died, there is no water in the river, and everything has gone quiet. So the spring, which actually bursts forth to life with a lot of music and color, with the flowers and birds and butterflies, has actually gone silent. Why? Because there is no life. And why? Because who did it to them? Not like in our fairy tales, a giant did not come and destroy this village. It was the human beings themselves. They used pesticides and insecticides, and they killed not only the insects and the pests, but they also tried to kill other living beings. Right? So we also must look at other books like, James Lovelock's Gaia theory, where he talks about the earth being, able to sustain itself and, replenish itself. But what we are trying to do is we're trying to protect. In olden times, when farmers had crops, they had natural manure. It could be neem leaves or neem seeds or whatever they used as natural manure, dried leaves and things like that. But we thought, and because the use of neem manure, automatically the insects and the pests will die. And if some of the crops were eaten, it is okay. It is a balance of life. Some of the crops need to be eaten by the insect. They also need to eat something, right? So it's okay if 10% of your crops were eaten by the pests or insects. That was the balance of life. And there is also this very beautiful book called Thinking Like a Mountain by an American writer called Aldo Leopold, where he thinks very differently. He says, there is a mountain filled with green cover, and there are wolves and there are deer on the mountainside. Now, most of us, when we get this image or picture, we would think the wolves are going to eat up the deer, so shoot the wolves. So the entire book begins with that. There is a wolf that has been shot, and it lies there, and its eye is half open, and in that eye, the mountain and the green are reflected. So there is a green light in that wolf's eye. But then the mountain feels sad. Why? Because the deer has been eating up the green cover. And if there are no wolves, the entire mountain will become bare. So the balance happens because the deer eat the green, the wolves eat the deer. So some part of the mountain is saved with some green cover. Some of the deer have to die. And of course, some of the wolves get killed. This balance is true about our lives as well, right? So Leopold writes about, think like a mountain. Don't think that, like we say, some of us are vegans. We will not eat this, we will not eat that. Don't kill wolves. A wolf should not be killed, it has to be killed. A deer should not be killed, it also has to be killed. We need to maintain the balance and see where this happens. We are not killing. The wolf has to survive, it has to eat the deer, right? So all this probably goes back to Rachel Carson and also to this writer whom I'm very fond of. And some of you have not read Thoreau and Walden, you must read. Every day I keep thinking, why can't we be like Thoreau? In the middle of everything, he just left the hustle and bustle of life, and went away into the forest near the Walden Pond, found himself a small house, and lived there in that cabin for the rest of his life. And Walden is a beautiful treatise on simple living, living with nature, in communion with nature, and trying to heal your body. All you need to do is to walk into a forest, allow the sounds and the smell, and the dampness to enter your body, and you will be healed of all illness that we might face here in the city because of exposure to toxins, pollutants, carbon, whatever it is that we're facing here and now. So, going back to simple living. So, this novel, Migrations, keeps not only migration, several books like that, which keep coming time and again, reinforce the fact that we need to put the balance back into life. Let the birds fly out. Don't deplete the oceans of their natural resources. They need to have the bud and bloom that I see every OTT platform heal itself. And let's work towards net zero or carbon neutrality in our own way. Every little step that we take, listening, I hope it was okay.
Chitra, the session is not yet over actually.
Oh,
The real session is going to begin now with
Okay.
questions. Please be.
I have to sit, okay.
A few words about my friend before I give my observations. I'm a non-believer and I don't believe in incarnation and all that. If there is one, let's take it. I wish I born as a girl in the next incarnation. Reason is there, and I wish Chitra also is there, quite older to me, so that she'll be a teacher at Ethiraj College. I wish I'll be a student there and sit and listen to her lectures. The same hall used to have, the same office used to have hundreds of students every year for the internship. We used to get different colleges, MA intern students. I always like to ask this question to the students. Who is your favorite teacher? The girls are too smart and they say, no, all are very good, sir. All nice. Okay. Off the record, tell me the one who would like to, suppose tomorrow I invite one of them here, who would be your choice? Invariably, for the last 14 years, I heard only one voice, Chitra. Your good name? Shiny, right? This girl today came because of Chitra. When Chitra walked into the room, she cried. See, that's the kind of bonding teacher, connects with the student. Of course, I have another commitment, so that's why I was looking at my phone and I was doing chatting. But always I remember, she told me about one incident that took place in a college when she took a special class on a Saturday. People know that I've written two. This is not for advertisement or anything. This is one of those two collections, short story collections. In this, I have written one story, Anbarasi in Kaipesi. Chitraku theriyadu. And the kada I used it only what she has narrated about an incident that happened in Ethiraj College. 70% Chitra, 30% my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law also was a teacher, mistress. I use it. நிறைய பேர் சொன்னது அந்த டீச்சர் எப்படி உங்களால பண்ண முடிஞ்சது அப்படின்னு Chitra. Now coming back to this, this story, the novel Migrations. Fantastic. No, I first wanted to ask you, நீங்க எழுதிக்கங்க நிறைய questions இருக்குது. How do you pick up a book, Chitra? Because you are always unique. This is not the first time. This is the third time you are coming here. Maybe for this room, first time. But earlier, twice you came for our Book Club India. Arulchelvan also vouch. சார் வர்றாருன்னா நமக்கு பாபு ஜெயக்குமார்னா தெரியும் அவர் என்ன ஜானர்ல வருவார் அப்படின்னு தெரியும். But I always wonder how you pick up a book of such a magnitude, and the way you present it is amazing. Age cannot wither you, Chitra. You're not age, but still, I want to use that famous lines of Shakespeare at some place. Age cannot wither. Yeah. As you rightly said, the ecosystem. We always use this as a very famous anecdote while we speak at places. Every morning in an African forest, when a deer wakes up, it will always think that today I have to run faster than the fastest line so that I can survive today. On the other side of the forest, one lion will wake up and think that today I should run faster than at least a slowest deer so that I can survive. So the important thing is whether you are lion or deer, every morning you should get up and start running. That's what they used to say. That's how the ecosystem balanced. You're so beautifully you brought. You started with something with Franny and personal loss, all that, and you moved to migration. Now I wanted to ask you this because these are all very tough, actually, to be very frank. Many of us in this room can't even cast 20, 30 pages of such novels. It's very difficult. What is the narrative techniques adopted? This is my second question. What is the narrative? First question I told you, how you pick up books. Who suggests you? Don't say ChatGPT or Google, right? I want to ask the Chitra of 80s, 90s, and the start of the millennium. Second question is, what is the narrative technique adopted in this book which helped you to glue to the book till the end? Honestly, நான் படிக்க மாட்டேன் அந்த மாதிரி book unless people like you say படிடானா. It started with a girl, our tragic loss, all that suddenly, all of a sudden, move to a different dimension altogether. You talk about, channel you talk about climatic change, all that. And my question now, this is third and last question. Is this character Franny is symbolized to a bird, or the bird's migration is symbolized to this character? Where exactly this transformation happens in this? What exactly? Okay, we can talk about environment issues. Babu J. Kumar sir article. But what is that this book trying to say with all this powerful narrative techniques? Thank you. You can sit and talk.
Thank you, sir, for those very kind words. Mulvanan sir, is very large-hearted, so he will say nice things. But I don't know if I deserve all that, but I'm very blessed and grateful. Can I stand and talk?
Yeah, please. Better. We will see you.
It's an interrogation. So the first question was how I pick books, Ilya. How do I pick books? Just like that, it goes by your, you read reviews and you're always looking for something to read. Yeah, you try to read at least 2 books a month or at least 1 book a month, depending on your schedule. I know some of you read much more than that. But when you keep looking around or somebody suggests something, or you read an article. And I always try to look for something on environmental studies because as I said, I worked on Native American literature and I got so involved with Native American literature, got so involved with the worship of nature. And I realized, I'm a believer, but I also know one part of me tells me that what I believe in is only science. And I understand and accept that. So, but I don't talk about it because I know there could be a hardcore believer somewhere. I know there is no Shiva out there, there is no Brahma out there, there is no Vishnu, but I like that form, right? So it's just the way we dress up our children. One day we dress them up in this, and the other day. So we give some divine form, some powerful force out there, we give it a form and we pray. And that's what I too do. But deep down, I know that the world is held together by nature, by natural forces. So those kind of books draw me. When migrations came out, it came in the pandemic year, right? So there was a lot of talk about this. So even getting the book was difficult. With great difficulty, I read an article on migrations. Then I said, no, let me read the book and then, read the article. I didn't want to get influenced. So normally I keep looking around. I walk into even if I didn't have any money, I'll walk into a bookstore. We have a bookstore in just like this in Nadir called Odyssey. So I'll just walk in. You can sit there. You can pick up a book and read. You don't have to buy the book. They have tables and chairs there. You can just sit there and read, go through all these books, and they will also suggest these are the bestsellers. And sometimes if you keep reading newspapers or magazines, you see somebody would have suggested something. And now, of course, on YouTube, you have a lot of people suggesting books, telling you that these are the books to read. As I told you, I work with International Institute of Film and Culture, Mr. Vetrimaran's film school. We've just finished one batch. They've gone to make their short films. We have already recruited, enrolled the second batch. அவங்க ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஜாயின் பண்ண பொழுது when we asked them உங்களுக்கு இதை பத்தி எப்படி உங்களுக்கு தெரியும், யூடியூப்ல பார்த்தோம், என்னெல்லாம் படிப்பீங்கன்னு பார்த்தா we were quite impressed. நான் தி ஜானகிராமன் படிப்பேன், புதுமை புத்தன் படிப்பேன். இந்த வயசு பசங்க அதெல்லாம் படிப்பாங்களா அப்படின்னா, ஏன் படிக்கிறாங்க அப்படின்னா, டைரக்டர் ராம் சஜஸ்ட் பண்ணாரு இந்த புக்கு படிக்க சொல்லி, டைரக்டர் பா ரஞ்சித் சொன்னாரு, வெற்றிமாறன் சார் சொன்னாரு, மிஷ்கின் வந்து ரிசரக்ஷன் பத்தி படிக்க சொன்னாரு, ரிசரக்ஷன் ஒரு புக்கு படிக்க சொன்னாரு. ஸோ some directors also do that. They suggest good books to students, and that is motivating the padikra generation. And I'm very, very blessed that in Liba, where I work now, Etharaj also had a wonderful library. Liba has an amazing library. Olivanan sir saw the library. Right now it works up to 10 in the night, from morning 7 to 10. And our director wants to make it a 24/7 library. So on the steps அப்படிதான் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க. ஒரு பக்கம் வந்து கிளைம்பிங்க்கு, இன்னொரு slightly bigger steps where he says he wants to line it with cushions so that students can sit there in the night, read or work on their laptop. தூக்கம் வந்துச்சுன்னா அங்கேயே தூங்கிக்கலாம், காலையில எந்திரிச்சு திருப்பி ஒர்க் பண்ணலாம். Sometimes your assignments are like that. அந்த மாதிரி. So lovely library, and they keep on stocking, புதுசா சேர்த்துக்கிட்டே இருப்பாங்க. So அந்த ஒரு சூழல்ல when you're there constantly, you're always looking for some book, and sometimes the title will catch your eye, sometimes the blurb, sometimes the review, ஏதோ ஒன்று வந்து will attract you. So that's how, from what friends tell me or suggest, or what newspapers tell me, what people suggest on YouTube or other social media platforms, I pick up my books. Then the second question was
about the narrative techniques.
The narrative technique in this particular novel is like slightly difficult to follow because, as I said, it moves backward and forward. It's almost like a stream of consciousness. It's the point of view of Franny, the protagonist. It's from her point of view that she tries to go. It starts at the present time when she has already spotted that captain of Sagani, and she is approaching him to embark on this very hazardous journey to the Antarctic. But it also goes back. She goes back to tell you what happened in Australia before she moved to Ireland. So it keeps going back and forth like a stream of consciousness technique, but it goes only in her voice, with a lot of overtones of, what the other characters speak, particularly her husband, who's a bird lover. And as you said, I personally felt the title Migrations itself talks about her journey. No young girl will embark on a journey from one end of the world to the other end. And it's also about love. And it's also about how we destroy what we love. It's also about relationships, because sometimes this is what I talk to students also about. I learned that as I grew up. We keep saying, I love you, I love you, I love you all the time, and smother them. கழுத்து நெறிகிற வரைக்கும் லவ் பண்ணி அவங்க மூச்சு திணறி ஓடி போற வரைக்கும் லவ் பண்ணவே வேண்டாம். We need to, the more you love somebody, you need to let them go, especially in a relationship, in either a love relationship. You'll find a lot more peace. இந்த படம் வந்துச்சுல, இப்போ big blockbuster hit that was, and ரெண்டு phone மாத்திக்குவாங்க, love today. That is actually so true. I have never looked into my husband's phone, neither has he looked into mine. Yeah. Not that we have anything to hide, but still. அந்த privacy, யார் கூட ஃபோன்ல பேசுறீங்க, ஏன் உங்க ஃபோன் இல்ல இவ்வளோ நேரம் எங்கேஜ்டா இருந்தது, ஏன் வீட்டுக்கு லேட்டா வரீங்க, லேட் ஆச்சு. I personally follow that. If my husband sets out on work and doesn't come back at the time he's supposed to come back, 5 o'clock வரலன்னா வரட்டும், 6 மணி ஆகட்டும், 7 மணி ஆகட்டும், வந்துதானே ஆகணும். சரி, அப்புறம் முன்னாடி எல்லாம் ரொம்ப இதுவா வந்து பாவமா டின்னர்லாம் பண்ணி வச்சுட்டா, யூஸ் டு வெயிட் ஆல்சோ. பட் இப்போ என்னாச்சு?
ரொம்ப பாதிக்கப்பட்டவங்க
அப்படி அமைஞ்சா ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கும்.
பாதிக்கப்பட்டவங்க நல்லா கை தட்டுறாங்க.
இல்ல, நாங்க பாதிக்கப்பட்டதுனாலதான் அப்படி இருக்கோம். பாதிக்கப்பட்டு நம்ம மாத்திக்கிறோம்ல. So once you let go, there's so much of peace. Okay, you have a lot more time to yourself. You can read your books. You can watch some nice movie. ஏதோ ஒன்று பண்ணலாம். வரட்டும், பாவம். Let them have their own space and time. கொஞ்சம் அந்த when you let go, they also find that peace and space. So what we love, we tend to destroy with too much of care. இல்லையா? அந்த ஒரு சின்ன கதை ஒண்ணு இருக்குல்ல, ஒரு சின்ன பையன் வந்து ஒரு விதைய போட்டுட்டு டெய்லி போய் தோண்டி 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 பார்த்து அது தோண்டிக்கிட்டே இருந்தா எப்படி, அது தண்ணி ஊத்துறீங்க, தோண்டி பாக்குறீங்க, சரி, அப்படி தோண்டிட்டே இருந்தா அது எப்படி வளரும்? அது கொஞ்ச நேரம் மூடி மறைஞ்சு வச்சு சினிமால தான் வளரும், நிஜத்துல வளரவே வளராது இல்லையா? So we need to allow it to germinate. அது உள்ளேயே அந்த சூழல்ல இருந்து it has to grow. தப்பு பண்ணாலும் பரவாயில்ல, it's okay, they will learn from their mistakes. So அந்த ஒரு understanding has to come. So these themes are what I found in this book. You know, that sense of homelessness from Australia to Ireland to Greenland, and then on a ship which is literally on the high seas. When you're on a ship, you don't belong to any land, Ilya. Something happens, you're just gone. So you're not part of any country. So where is home? But for her home is in her heart, the love that she had for her husband, and the love that drives her to go to the Antarctic because she loves him so much. That was his last wish. And the wish fulfill pandradhukaga, she tries to embark on this long journey, which is like this migratory passage of the birds. So that I thought was very symbolic about the novel. The narrative technique is a little tedious because there are these flashbacks and flash forwards, and the entire novel little, because it is not very distant future, it's in the near future. The world is still very recognizable, but it's also not recognizable, right? You don't know if we will ever come across, I hope not, that a time when there will be no fish in the ocean. நீங்க நல்லா பார்த்திருப்பீங்க, those of us who eat fish know that there are certain months in a year where when you're told that the fishermen should not go out into the sea. That is the breeding season. ஆனா நம்ம என்ன பண்ணுவோம், we are greedy, right? So அந்த சீசன்லயும் போய் யாராவது மீன் கொண்டு வந்து விற்கதான் செய்வாங்க, நம்மளும் சாப்பிடத்தான் செய்வோம். போகக்கூடாதுன்னா போகக்கூடாது, allow them to grow. The Jains have a way of living. Those of you who are familiar with Jains can learn that from them. I had Lata Kumari in our college. I learned so much from her. Certain months in a year, they will not eat anything that is green, because that is the season when plants are growing. So பச்சை அவங்க என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா, ஹார்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணும்போது அந்த விதை காய் எல்லாத்தையும் காய வச்சு எடுத்து ஸ்டாக் வச்சிருக்கும், வத்தல் மாதிரி. they'll keep it. And அந்த ட்ரை இதுல தான் வந்து they'll make sabji and they'll cook. அவங்களுக்கு பூண்டு கிடையாது, எதுவுமே கிடையாது, but still it's so tasty. They'll make these for those 3-4 months, chaturmasya they call it, where they will not eat any tubers, potato, இல்லனாலும் அவங்க சாப்பிட மாட்டாங்க, carrots or beet, anything that grows beneath the ground, because அந்த பல்ப்ல டியூபர்ல இருந்து தான் life has to come. நீங்க அதை பறிச்சு சாப்பிட்டுட்டீங்கன்னா எப்படி வளரும்? Then what do? We do mutation. We try to engender something. We try to create new vegetables, genetically modified katrika, potato, and all. Cross pollinate. ஏதோ ஒன்று பண்ணி we try to bring out, because we don't have a natural supply of vegetables or fruits. அது தன்னால விட்டு அதுவா வளர்ந்து நமக்கு சப்ளை கொடுக்கும். So these are the themes that migration seems to throw up, that you have to let the planet be itself, take only what you need and not what you want. A want is greed. Your need is very simple. So other we have to remember. Yeah.
Madam, you said something about the girl going and tagging those birds. Did she find any of them in the Antarctic?
No, she loses the track of those. And the tag வந்து அவளுக்கு signal இல்ல. So she's still more motivated to go and find it.
Yeah, no. Did she go and see the birds that she saw there in Arctic?
When she reaches the Antarctic,
Mm.
thinking that there will be no birds,
Mm.
she sees lots and lots of
No,
birds.
those specific birds that she
And the
saw.
specific birds in it, but because she loses track of that
Okay.
track.
No, that's what I mean.
So she thinks she's lost them.
Okay.
So the entire journey is with a lot of hopelessness, but she still wants to make that journey and reach the Antarctic and immerse the ashes.
Okay.
But when she reaches there, she finds all the Arctic terns over there, much more than she
So it's a
expected.
kind of faith that those birds have come here.
It's a faith that the birds will live for a little longer time if we can, try to be a little more protective towards the ocean life and things like that.
So where is she from? That writer?
Australia. She lives in Sydney. Charlotte McConaughey. She lives in Sydney.
At the outset, I express my profound thanks
Yes, sir.
to Madam for
Thank you, sir.
saying things which is quite incomprehensible if you evaluate it deeply. But you made it so simple, and actually we were in a fantasy world or wonder world where we were actually flying along with the characters, and it was getting into our mind so easily, and we were able to picturize it. It shows your deep involvement in what you are doing, and I'm on behalf of all would like to say that this is a great moment for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
Hold it, sir.
Respected Professor Chitra Karo, I was mesmerized by your speech and about the description of the book. Your criticism was excellent. And about the single bird, white bird, I think, right? It traveled 25,000 kilometers. A colorful bird speaking about a white bird. And you have touched on many topics. Environment and migration basic, and so many other things. I'm also a student of literature. And Mr. Bro Olivadan was fortunate to have you as professor, right? I think he had some lecture. I was a student of Loyola College in 70s. At the time, it was very dry, only boys are allowed. Professors are also boys. Actually, Father Jerome D'Souza, who was a cardinal for Pope, he taught me Prelude, Wordsworth. And Father Pinto, he will speak like a robo, GPT like that, and many others. So I wanted to speak in three parts. My friends should not stop me. First topic about US. Migration of human also I want to add. I was born as a small boy, and then school boy, college boy, married boy, working boy, retired boy, age-old boy like me. But I want to migrate. Physically I cannot do, but mentally I want to migrate to a college boy or teen boy. So this is another migration. About the book, it's a wonderful book. We can't buy. I cannot afford such a wonderful book. Good selection.
I'll buy it to you, sir.
I can leave this book with you, sir. If somebody wants to read,
No.
they can read it.
No. Please wait. You are very generous. You are very generous. And I am also a little naughty boy. My
Very
friends, such a wonderful teacher. One Tamil film, one boy said, Mala teacher, one for you. I would like to, I don't say that as a personality, not as a person. You are teaching, you're small. First time I meet you. So even first time, I'm tempted to say, I don't say that. Second, about the migration subject. It's a story. Migration, long back, I have written an article in Tamil 30 years ago on migratory birds from Arctic, Antarctic, Vedandangal, and so many other things about this story. About Vedandangal, we know. I would like to know, perhaps you may do some research or you have some knowledge. Either any other migratory bird center in our Tamil Nadu we can visit, so that let me finish. That's one thing. Last, I will stop. I am an unofficial, unauthorized member of Chennai Book Club. But I have a small request. Without getting permission, and they will get angry and beat me also.
They won't.
Your institution is wonderful institution, NAFT. Recently, some convention, I wanted to come there. It's a colorful institution. Is it possible for you to migrate the club to there for one lecture or one session, so that you will have your students, and now we have 20. There we have 200, 2,000, 20,000 audience. I stop with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
May I request Babu Jayakumar sir, this book has been compiled by him. So I wanted to give this book to you, but I'm so lucky that today he is also there. So please take it.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Would like to say something on whatever I
Yes, sir.
babbled there.
Just a small question. It's very evident that you're very interested in literature and you know so much about it and you're so passionate about it. I just wanted to ask if you write anything or if you have written anything that we could read. Do you write?
I do write, but I don't publish.
Right. Okay. Do you have any blog or anything of that sort where you put them out?
No.
No. You should. I
I
think.
should.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we are fortunate for having you here
Thank you, sir.
and being enlightened on so much of things which sounds to be, intricate,
Yes.
but you made it so simple.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, this environment thing, only yesterday I finished a book on local environmental issue. It's a new book called Heavy Metal. I mean, did you hear about it?
Yes.
It's a new book. Now it talks about the how Kodaikanal was ruined by mercury poisoning.
Mhm.
The entire book, it's a 300 and odd page book. It talks about how they ruined the place, and then how the case went to Supreme Court. They where they lost it. A lot of things are there. So only yesterday I was reading about the environment, one aspect, but here it's a different kind of a story, of course.
Mm.
It says, but that was also very frightening. Okay.
There is this British writer called Neil Gaiman who says that holding a book in your hand is like holding a dream. The moment book lovers will know that. The moment you start reading, it's like escaping into a world of dream. But when you start books like this, migration and all that, it's like holding a nightmare, It's so scary because you keep hearing people saying that we're running out of water, there is no water, and there's no food. And we experienced that during the Corona period. So scary times we have experienced. We've seen the tsunami. So, it is a deep and intense truth that we are facing. Right? So there are so many books, like we have our own Vandana Shiva who writes, Arundhati Roy who writes, we have Wangari Maathai, and then we have a Native American writer called Leslie Marmon Silko, who in her book called The Almanac of the Dead, which talks about the Mayan civilization, talks about how America is becoming a stockpile of uranium, and that can be dangerous for the environment. And we have, because of excessive mining, depleted all the natural resources. We have cut down the mountains, quarried into the mountains, made the rivers run dry, and even cutting into the ocean space. So I think it is a very scary world that we're living in. It's okay for people like me of my generation to say it's okay because, I'm on the sunset side of life. But for children, I think we need to give them a better world and a newer world, and at least a newer way of thinking, not the way we think or the way my generation thought. And people like Babu Jayakumar sir, who is a writer I admire a lot. And initially, அவரை பார்த்தோன்னே கொஞ்சம் பேச்சே வரல எனக்கு, சார் முன்னாடி இப்படி பேசுறது அப்படின்னா, but it was Thank you, sir, for listening patiently.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ramchandra Guha's Environmentalism is a wonderful book to read again on, because this environment and this G20 was all about the agricultural, agrarian economy and all that. So that is our grassroots reality. How do we protect that? No? And that last thought, some of you, sir, I'm just leaving that thought with you. Some of us who go to temples keep talking about Kumbhabhishekam and all that. And the Kumbhabhishekam ஏன் பண்றாங்க அப்படின்னா அந்த கோயில் கலசத்துக்குள்ள நெல் விதைகள் இருக்கும். And the potency of that நெல் is for 12 years. So அந்த 12 yearsக்கு அப்புறம் எந்த ஒரு இதுவும் வரல, catastrophe வரல அப்படிங்கும் பொழுது they will remove it and fill it again with fresh grain, so that when you run out of crops to grow, then you can bring down that kalasam, adla irundhu nell eduthu vadaiklaangiradhu. So our forefathers have thought so much about life and about our environment. நம்ம ஏன் யோசிக்க மாட்டேங்கிறோம்? அதை வெறும் கலசமாவும் கோயிலாவும் பார்க்கிறோம். That is a way of life, of living with nature, so that we should. The காக்காய்க்கு சாப்பாடு வைக்கிறதுலாம் கூட ancestors சொல்றோம். It's only trying to distribute our food to the sparrows and the birds. இப்ப sparrows-உம் இல்லை. But it's okay. It's still a world filled with a lot of hope, because all of you are there to take it forward. So thank you so much.
Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
You have time, ma'am?
Yes, yeah, I have the time.
Actually, I want to share one thing.
Yes.
நானும் வந்துட்டு புக்ஸ் படிக்க ஆரம்பிச்சது டைரக்டர் ராம் சார், மிஷ்கின் சார், வெற்றிமாறன் சாருக்கு அப்புறம் தான் நானும் புக்ஸ் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணேன். அது சொல்லும்போது இங்கே ஷேர் பண்ணோம். அப்புறம் கிளைமேட் சேஞ்ச் பற்றி ஒரு டவுட் இருக்கு மேம். நான் எப்போவுமே வந்துட்டு பீப்புள்ஸ் டெமோக்ரஃபி டிவைட் பண்ணும்போது ஒரு செட் ஆஃப் பீப்புள்ஸ் வந்துட்டு எனக்கு அதை பற்றி எதுவுமே கவலை இல்லை அப்படின்னு தான் இருப்பாங்க. ஐ மீன் லைஃப்ல ஒரு கார் வரதா இருக்கட்டும், எனக்கும் என்னோட ஜென்ரேஷனுக்கு எங்க அப்பா தாத்தா யாருக்குமே வந்துட்டு காருக்கும் எங்களுக்கு சம்மந்தமே கிடையாது. பட் வி ஆல் ஹாவ் அ பார்ட் இன் ரெடியூசிங் த பாப்புலேஷன் இட் கிரியேட்டட். ஸோ அப்படிங்கும்போது மேலே இருக்கிறவங்க வந்துட்டு ஐ மீன் பிஸ்னஸ் மேன்ஸ், இண்டஸ்ட்ரியலிஸ்ட், அந்த டாப் 1% வந்து தே நோ வாட் தே கிரியேட். அவங்கள்ட்டே அந்த சொல்யூஷன் இருக்குமா அப்படின்றது எனக்கு தெரியல மேம். ஏன்னா ஹியூமன் கேன் டூ எனிதிங் அப்படின்றது நம்ம பார்த்துட்டு தான் இருக்கோம். பட் கிளைமேட் சேஞ்ச் மட்டும் முன்னாலேருந்து இப்போ வரைக்கும், பாப்புலேஷனும் முன்னாலேருந்து இப்போ வரைக்கும் எந்த ஒரு என்ன சொல்றது, வெறும் த்ரெட்டா மட்டுமே இருக்கு, சொல்யூஷன் இருக்குன்னு கூட நமக்கு தெரியல. என்ன சொல்ற, ப்ராப்ளம் கிரியேட் பண்றது, சோகால் கிரியேட் பண்றது வந்துட்டு மேல இருக்கிறவங்களா இருந்தாலும் சொல்யூஷன் சொல்லும் போது கீழே இருக்க எல்லாரும் தான் பண்ணணும், எல்லார் கையிலையும் தான் இருக்குன்னு சொல்றாங்க. ஸோ இது வந்துட்டு எதை நோக்கி போகுது இந்த கிளைமேட் சேஞ்ச்? ஒரு வியாபாரத்தை நோக்கி போகுதாம் இதுவும் அப்படின்னு எனக்கு ஒரு கேள்வி இருக்கும்.
இல்ல, கிளைமேட் சேஞ்ச் வியாபாரத்தை நோக்கி போகுது. அந்த சம்மிட் இதெல்லாம் வியாபாரத்தை நோக்கி தான் போகுது. இப்போ நீங்க பார்த்திருப்பீங்க, எலக்ட்ரிக் வெஹிக்கிள்ஸ் வந்திருக்கு. என்னோட லிமிட்டட் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங், எனக்கு பெருசா தெரியாதுன்னாலும் என்னோட பார்வையில வந்து எலக்ட்ரிக் வெஹிக்கிள்ஸ் ஷுட் காஸ்ட் லெஸ். நீங்க சிட்டில ஓடிட்டு இருக்கக்கூடிய டீசல் வெஹிக்கிள், பெட்ரோல் வெஹிக்கிள்ஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் ரீகால் பண்ணி அதை வந்து நீங்க எலக்ட்ரிக் வெஹிக்கிள்ஸ் அதை திருப்பி டிஸ்ட்ராய் பண்ணி எலக்ட்ரிக் வெஹிக்கிள்ஸா கிரியேட் பண்ணி ரொம்ப அஃபோர்டபுள் ரேட்ஸ்ல எல்லாருக்கும் கொடுத்தாதான் நீங்க பொல்யூஷனை கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ண முடியும். எலக்ட்ரிக் வெஹிக்கிள்ஸ் நார்மலா எல்லாராலையும் வாங்க முடியாத ஒரு உயரத்துல இருக்கு. அப்ப அதை யார் வாங்குவா? ஒரு அதானியோ அம்பானியோ அவங்க குடும்பத்தை சேர்ந்தவங்க மட்டும்தான் அதை வாங்க முடியுங்கிற நிலைமை தான் இருக்கு இல்லையா? ஈவன் டாடா எலக்ட்ரிக் வெஹிக்கிள் காஸ்ட் a lot of money. அப்போ நீங்க எப்படி வந்து பொல்யூஷன் கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ண தானே எலக்ட்ரிக் வெஹிக்கிள்ஸ் கொண்டு வந்திருக்கோம். அப்போ நம்ம நார்மலா 2 வீலர்ல போறவங்களாலையும் இல்ல ஒரு சின்ன கார் யூஸ் பண்றவங்க கூட ஏதோ ஒரு கார்பன் எமிஷன் இருக்கும், ஒரு கார்பன் டை ஆக்சைடு எமிட் பண்ணிட்டு தான் இருப்போம். அதை குறைக்கிறதுக்கு கொண்டு வரோம்னா அந்த வெஹிக்கிள் கம்மியா தானே இருக்கணும் இல்லையா சார்? வை இஸ் இட் எக்ஸ்பென்சிவ்? அப்போ என்னால அதை வாங்கவே முடியாது. இப்போ பணக்காரங்க ரிச் கெட் ரிச், அது கெட் போறாங்கிற மாதிரி தான் ஒரு சிச்சுவேஷன். ஸோ டிசிஷன் மேக்கர்ஸ், பாலிசி மேக்கர்ஸ் இதை வந்து அவங்க வேற மாதிரி யூஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க. ஒரு பணம் பண்ற ஒரு இது மாதிரி பண்ணலாம் நீங்க சொல்ற மாதிரி. ஸோ பட் கிளைமேட் சேஞ்ச் இஸ் அ ரியாலிட்டி, நடந்துட்டு தான் இருக்கு. இப்போ இந்த ஜனவரி பிப்ரவரி நம்ம உணர்ந்திருப்போம், சென்னை வந்து கொஞ்சம் குளிர்ச்சி, யூஸ்வலா அப்படி இருக்காது. பொங்கல் முடிஞ்ச உடனே அடுத்த நாளே வெயில் சுட்டு எரிக்கும், அப்படி இல்லை, சில்லுன்னு இருந்துச்சு. அண்ட் சம் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் வென்ட் டு துபாய் இன் February, அரௌண்ட் Feb 14th போல போனாங்க. அண்ட் they were telling us that துபாய்க்குள்ள வெளியில போனா, அஃப்கோர்ஸ் துபாய்ல நமக்கு தெரியும் பில்டிங்ஸ் எல்லாமே ஏர் கண்டிஷன்டா இருக்கும். ஸோ ஃப்ரம் ஒன் ஏர் கண்டிஷன் பில்டிங் இன்டு அன் ஏசி கார் டு அன் ஏசி மால் ஒரு ஷாப்பிங் சென்டர் போகலாம். பட் அவங்க வெளியில ரோட்ல வந்து நிற்கும் போது they seeing bright sunlight, ஆனா அந்த கொடைக்கானல்ல எல்லாம் ஒரு குளிர் இருக்கும் தெரியுமா, அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சில்னஸ், ஏதோ ஒரு ஸ்னோ குளோபுக்குள்ள நிக்க வச்ச மாதிரி இருந்தது. துபாயா இப்படி இருக்கு, டெசர்ட் கிளைமேட்ல நைட்டு இருக்கும், பட் பகல்லே அப்படிதான் இருக்கு அப்படிங்கிறாங்க. விச் மீன்ஸ் தெர் இஸ் அ டிராஸ்டிக் சேஞ்ச் இன் த கிளைமேட். எல்லாமே மாறி அந்த சுழல் மாறி வந்துட்டு தான் இருக்கு. நாங்க ஸ்கூல்ல படிக்கும் பொழுது, காலேஜ்ல படிக்கும் பொழுதெல்லாம் நல்லா தெரியும், ஜூன் ஜூலைல மழை வரும். சவுத் வெஸ்ட் மான்சூன்ஸ், அக்டோபர் நவம்பர்ல நார்த் ஈஸ்ட் மான்சூன்ஸ் வரும், தவறாம வரும். அண்ட் வி ஆர் ப்ரிப்பேர்ட் ஃபார் தட். நம்மளுடைய வாழ்க்கை முறையும் அதுக்கேற்ற மாதிரி தான் மாறி இருக்கும் இல்லையா? ஆனா இப்ப பாத்தீங்கன்னா அந்த ஜூன் ஜூலைல மழை பெய்யாது, திடீர்னு டிசம்பர்ல மழை பெய்யும், அப்புறம் வெள்ளம் வரும், சுனாமி வரும். இது எல்லாமே பிகாஸ் த நேச்சுரல் ரிதம் இஸ் நாட் தேர். ஸோ அந்த ரிதம் வந்து நம்ம உங்க ஜென்ரேஷன் தான் அஃபெக்ட் ஆவாங்க எங்களை விடுவோம். ஏன்னா எங்களுடைய நான் வளர்ந்துட்டு இருந்த காலத்துல ஐ ஹேட் அ பெட்டர் வேர்ல்ட் டு லிவ் இன். ஐ திங்க் ஐ எம் ஃபார்ச்சுனேட். பட் நீங்க யங்ஸ்டர்ஸ்க்கு வந்து இட்ஸ் நாட் அ வெரி ஹெல்த்தி வேர்ல்ட். இட்ஸ் அ ஹாப்பி வேர்ல்ட். நம்ம ஹாப்பி ஆக்கிக்கலாம், பட் இட்ஸ் நாட் அ வெரி ஹெல்த்தி வேர்ல்ட் ஐ ஃபீல். ஜஸ்ட் சிட்டிக்குள்ள எங்க பார்த்தாலும் தோண்டி போட்டு, எஸ் திஸ் இஸ் ப்ரோக்ரஸ், மெட்ரோ இஸ் அ ப்ரோக்ரஸ், பட் அதை எவ்வளோ டேமேஜ் பண்ணியிருக்கு இல்லையா? அதான் கரெக்ட் பதில் சொன்னேன் நான் உங்க கேள்விக்கு.
No, actually there is no such a definite answer for this question.
ஆமா,
That is the thing. It goes in that way. Of course, the most of the climate change is brought about by the rich class. Adan நான் சொன்னேன் அந்த book Heavy Metal. That's what it says. It talks about Hindustan liver, how we created that poisoning of an entire this station. அதுக்கப்புறம் உள்ளது பார்த்தா அதெல்லாம். So what is said was right. It is they who will do that. But we have to keep fighting for it in our own humble way.
that's true.
ஃபைட்டிங் போது என் ட்ரெண்ட்ல இருக்க ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் என்ன பாக்குறேன்னா, எங்க மக்களுக்கு வந்துட்டு ப்ரொடக்டிவிட்டின்ற இருக்குன்ற பாக்குறேன். ஏன்னா ப்ரொடக்டிவிட்டின்னு போகும்போது ஒரு லிமிட்டட் டைம்ல எவ்வளவு அதிக ஒர்க் பண்றோன்றதான். பட் இப்போ இருக்க பீப்புள்ஸ் வந்துட்டு ஐ வாண்ட் டு இன்க்ரீஸ் கெரியர்ல இம்ப்ரூவ் ஆகணும், ஒர்க் எஃபிஷியன்சி போகணுன்றதுனால ஒர்க்கிங் ஆல் த டைம் 24 hours 8 hours தூங்கிட்டு மிச்சம் எல்லா நேரமும் ஒர்க் பண்றாங்க. எல்லா நேரம் ஒர்க் பண்ணும்போது பேச்சுலர்ஸ் எப்படி நாங்க ரூம் கிளீன் பண்ண மறந்துடுறோம், டிஷ் வாஷ் பண்ண மறந்துன்ற மாதிரி இந்த ஒர்க் ஏரியால அவங்க நம்ம இருக்கிற வீடு தட் மீன்ஸ் எத்த என்வரான்மெண்ட்டை டோட்டலா மறந்துடுறாங்க. அது மக்களுக்கு எப்படி சொல்றது, we are forgetting.
ஆமா,
Look, that was also brought about by the capitalist class.
ஆமா,
Because they changed all the old traditional way of working. We work only for a certain period of time. We were given freedom. Now it's not like that. If you work more, you get more. முன்னாடி அப்படி கிடையாது. You have to work only for a certain period every day, and then you take your off and go. But now it's all changed. And that change was also came from above.
ஆமா.
That is the point.
இப்போ நான் வந்து லீபால ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன், லால இன்ஸ்டிடியூட் பிசினஸ் அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன். ஐ எம் a counselor of well-being there. So I'm supposed to talk to students, make sure that they're keeping well. அங்க மெயின் ப்ராப்ளம் வந்து ஸ்ட்ரெஸ், டிப்ரெஷன் இதெல்லாம் இருக்கும். பட் எவ்ரி டே ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் வந்து என்கிட்ட அஃப்கோர்ஸ் ரிலேஷன்ஷிப் ப்ராப்ளம்ஸும் இருக்கும், பிகாஸ் இட்ஸ் அ கோஎட் மிக்ஸ்ட் காலேஜ். பட் எனக்கு அங்க பிடிக்காத சில விஷயங்கள் என்னன்னா, கிளாஸஸ் ரன் ஃப்ரம் 8:30 to 8:30.
That is.
நானே வந்து சில நாள் கிளாஸ் எடுத்துட்டு ஒரு 9 o'clock வெளியே வரும்போது அந்த பில்டிங் ஃபுல்லா லைட் இருக்கும்போது எனக்கு ரொம்ப வினோதமா இருக்கும். நான் அப்படி டீச் பண்ணதே இல்லை. எத்தராஜ்ல 2 மணிக்கு முடிச்சுட்டு மேக்சிமம் 4 மணி வரைக்கும் இருப்போம், போவோம். ஈவினிங் எப்பாவது ஏதாவது ஃபங்க்ஷன் இருக்கும், அப்போ இருந்திருக்கும். கிளாஸஸ் எல்லாம் இருந்ததே இல்லை. அண்ட் தே திங்க் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் கிட்ட அவங்க என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் என்ன சொல்றாங்கன்னா, we are preparing you for the corporate world. ஸ்டூடெண்ட் என்கிட்ட வந்து என்ன சொல்றான்னா, இதுதான் கார்பரேட் வேர்ல்டுனா எனக்கு கார்பரேட் வேர்ல்டே வேண்டாம். நான் வந்து இப்போ இவங்க பிளேஸ்மெண்ட் கொடுக்குறாங்க, 100% பிளேஸ்மெண்ட் முடிச்சுட்டாங்க. அக்டோபர்ல இருந்து டிசம்பருக்குள்ளேயே 180 ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் ஆர் பிளேஸ்ட் இன் குட் கம்பெனிஸ் வித் குட் பே. பட் அவங்க என்ன சொல்றாங்க, ஒரு கொடுத்த மரியாதைக்கு 6 மாசம் இருப்போம். அது வந்து உங்களுக்கு லிமிட்டட் hours of work and you have your own free time which you need.
No, actually, it was like that earlier. There was a time when people were exploited. They were made to work throughout the day. It was like that. Then we fought. We in the sense our forefathers, they brought in the trade union movement. That was the first struggle that happened in Pondicherry. The south, it was in South India, it all started. The first labor union was started in Chennai. Everything started from here. We brought in that 8-hour thing. So many things, I mean, reforms we brought in. Then this IT industry, the corporate thing came and everything went back. I mean, it has gone back, it is going back, still down there.
That's right. ஒரே ஒரு சின்ன இது மட்டும் I'll just say that நீங்க கேட்ட கேள்விக்காக we might think நம்மளால என்ன செய்ய முடியும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக I'll give you the example of 3 people. ஒன்னு வந்து மயிலம்மா. There is a lovely book called மயிலம்மா ஓகே ஜீவிதம். The Plachimada struggle. Sir might be able to say. The Coca-Cola plant வந்து கேரளால இன்ஸ்டால் பண்ணது பண்ணும்போது she is a normal woman. She protested against that and the Coca-Cola plant அங்க செட்டப் பண்ண விடாம பண்ண ஒரு லேடி. Plachimada. So the book is called, English translation available இருக்கு. மயிலம்மா ஓகே ஜீவிதம். Story of மயிலம்மா. That is one. ரெண்டாவது வந்து there is this lady, இப்போ 2 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி I think she was given the பத்மஸ்ரீ இல்லையா, சாலா மருது திம்மக்கா அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு கர்நாடகால இருந்து ஒரு சாதாரண ட்ரைபல் woman who was working in a quarry. அவங்களுக்கும் அவங்க ஹஸ்பண்டுக்கும் குழந்தைங்க இல்லை, அப்புறம் அவர் இறந்துட்டாரு. இந்த லேடி வந்து குழந்தை இல்ல தனியா இருக்கணும்லாம் புலம்பாம என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா டெய்லி போய் ஒரு ஆலமர கண்ணை வந்து அந்த ரோடு ஓரத்துல நட்டுக்கிட்டே இருந்திருக்காங்க. ஒரு 4 கிலோமீட்டர் ஸ்ட்ரெச்சுக்கு தனி ஆளா ஷீ பிளான்டட் பேனியன் ட்ரீஸ். பேனியன் ட்ரீ வந்து நல்ல ஈகோ சிஸ்டம் பேர் பண்ணும். பிகாஸ் அந்த ரூட்ஸ் அவ்வளோ ஸ்ப்ரெட் ஆகும், ஏரியல் ரூட்ஸ் வேற வரும், அந்த சாயில் அப்படியே பிடிச்சிக்கும். ஸோ ஷி பிளான்டட் தட். இன்ஃபேக்ட் ஒரு இந்த பிளான் வரும்போது, ரோட் இம்ப்ரூவ்மெண்ட் பிளான் வரும்போது அந்த மரத்தை வெட்ட வேண்டிய வந்தபோது ஷி ரிக்வெஸ்டட் அந்த கவர்மெண்ட் அக்னாலேஜ், இல்லை இது கஷ்டப்பட்டு வளர்த்த மரம். கிட்டத்தட்ட பர்சனலா 364 banyan trees she's planted. And she's created one ecosystem over there for which BBC in 2016 recognized her as one of the most influential women in the world, and the government of India gave her a Padma Shri. And the Padma Shri வாங்கிறதுக்கு இன்னொரு ட்ரைபல் லேடி ஆல்சோ, she 2 years back she got a Padma Shri. இல்ல அந்த சட்டை கூட போடாம இப்படி தைரியமா போனாங்க. They're all tribal warriors. And the last person, there are several, இது மட்டும் சொல்லிடுறேன், தனி ஆளா நம்மளாலையும் ஏதாவது செய்ய முடியும் if we make up our mind. ராஜஸ்தான்ல of course it's a desert region. பிப்லான்ட்ரின்னு ஒரு சின்ன வில்லேஜ்ல there is this ராஜேந்தர் சிங் பாலிவால்னு சொல்லி the village sarpanch who had a daughter. அந்த டாட்டர் இறந்த பிறகு the same situation. அங்க அந்த கம்யூனிட்டில எல்லாம் வந்து ஒரு பொண்ணு பிறந்தாலே பாரோன்னு நினைக்கிறவங்க, ஏன்னா அந்த பொண்ணுக்கு நகை போடணும், கல்யாணம் பண்ணி வைக்கணும் அப்படின்னு. அந்த பொண்ணு இறந்த பிறகு இவர் என்ன பண்ணாரு, he brought about a system in that village that அந்த வில்லேஜ்ல யாருக்கு பெண் குழந்தை பிறந்தாலும் the rest of all of them will have to contribute some money, ஒரு 2000 என்னமோ, அதை வந்து பேங்க்ல போட்டு வைப்பாங்க. அது தவிர 111 ஃப்ரூட் பேரிங் ட்ரீஸை வந்து பிளான் பண்ணணும், அந்த பொண்ணு பிறந்ததை செலிப்ரேட் பண்ற மாதிரி. So much so, Piplantri now is like an oasis in the desert. அவ்வளவு ஃப்ரூட் பேரிங் ட்ரீஸ் அங்க வந்தாச்சு. And இந்த பொண்ணு, and they also sign in affidavit which they say அந்த பொண்ணுக்கு 18 வயசு வர வரைக்கும் கல்யாணம் is saved in her name, supports her education. கல்யாணம் பண்ணும்பொழுதும் they help and the girl gets married. ஸோ ஒரு தனி மனுஷன், ஒரு சாதாரண சர்பஞ்சா இருக்கிற ஒரு மனுஷனால இப்படி ஒரு வில்லேஜை மாற்ற முடியும்னா உங்களாலையும் முடியும். If you make up your mind, எப்படி நான் பண்ண முடியும் அப்படின்னு யோசிச்சா கண்டிப்பா பண்ண முடியும் இல்லையா. நாசம் பண்றவங்க பண்ணிக்கிட்டே தான் இருப்பாங்க. இப்ப நான் அதான் சொல்றேன் இல்லையா, லீபால வந்து I have 60% I love Liba, but Liba is this beautiful new building. வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா தெரியும், fantastic building. ஆனா தினமும் யோசிச்சு பார்ப்பேன், we have a chiller plant which feeds all the air conditioners in that building. And it's beautifully designed because our father director is a visionary. ஆனா எனக்கு என்ன கவலைன்னா, இவ்வளோ ஏசி ஓடிக்கிட்டே இருக்கு, ஒரு இடத்துல இவ்வளோ ஏசி ஓடி இவ்வளோ எமிஷன் இருந்துச்சுன்னா உலகம் பூரா எவ்வளோ ஏசி இருக்கும், எவ்வளோ எமிஷன்ஸ் இருக்கும் இல்லையா. ஸோ ஐ கீப் திங்கிங் இன் ஃபியூச்சர் we must make buildings where we have open windows so that fresh air உள்ள வரும். நோ ஏர் கண்டிஷனர், ஃபேன் வேணும்னா போட்டுக்கலாம். that will circulate the natural air. ஏசியை கம்மி பண்ணணும், ஏசியை நம்ம வந்து குறைங்க கூட நம்ம பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஏசி தான் ஓடிட்டு இருக்கோம் இல்லையா. நம்ம வாழ்க்கை முறை அப்படி ஆயிடுச்சு. எங்கேயாவது குறைக்க முடியும்னா நம்ம குறைச்சிக்கலாம். 2 மணி நேரம் ஓடுற ஏசி 1/2 மணி நேரம் மட்டும் ஓட்டலாம். You can reduce. So reduce, recycle, ரீயூஸ் ஏதோ ஒன்று பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கு.
இந்த என்விரான்மெண்டல் ப்ரொடெக்ஷன்ல சொல்லும்போது நம்ம டோட்டல் எர்த் இருக்கு குளோபல், அந்த பூமி ஒரு லேயரு, அது அது மொத்த பூமி வந்து ஒரு போர்வை மாதிரி போத்திருக்கு ஓசோன் லேயர். நம்ம நிறைய இயர்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணா வயிற்றுல அல்சர் வாட்டர் போடுற மாதிரி
ஆமா ஓசோன் லேயர்
எமிஷன். இப்ப நீங்க சொன்னீங்கல்ல வேளாண் அது போய் இட் மேக்ஸ் அல்சர் மாதிரி வாட்டர் போட்டுனா நம்ம டோட்டல் சிஸ்டம் வந்து கொலாப்ஸ் ஆகுது. இது வந்து ஃபியூச்சர் வந்து நம்ம வந்து நேச்சர் சேவ் பண்ணோம்னா ஏசியை குறைச்சுதான் அட்வைஸ் பண்றாங்க. பட்
நம்மளால முடியல. அதை முடிஞ்ச வரைக்கும் குறைச்சிக்கலாம், தவிர்க்க முடியலனாலும் குறைச்சிக்கலாம்னு சொல்றேன். 2 மணி நேரம் ஓடுற ஏசி 1/2 மணி நேரம் ஓட்டலாம், அந்த மாதிரி நம்ம பழகிக்கணும். நம்ம கொஞ்சம் வெளியில நடந்துட்டு வந்தோம்னாலே ஃப்ரெஷ்ஷா இருக்கும், அப்ப ஏசி தேவைப்படாது. ஆனா நம்ம நடக்க மாட்டோம், வேலை முடிச்சு வீட்டுக்கு போனோம்னா ஏசியை போடுவோம், டிவியை பார்ப்போம், அதுதானே பண்றோம். இல்ல போன் எடுத்து வச்சுப்பாங்க.
வெளியே போனா வெந்துடும்.
ஈவினிங்ல வெயில் வேகாது. அது விட்டமின் டி இல்ல. இல்ல இல்ல பரவாயில்ல சார். It's such a pleasure talking to all of you. Thank you so much. லிட்ரேச்சர் எடுத்துட்டு இருந்தேன்.
தமிழ்,
இங்கிலீஷ்.
Good afternoon.
இங்கிலீஷ் லிட்ரேச்சர் தான் சொல்லி கொடுத்தேன், பட் தமிழ் லிட்ரேச்சர் எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிரியம். ஏன்னா எங்க தாத்தா ஒரு ரைட்டர், அம்மா பாஸ்கர தொண்டைமான் கோயில் பத்தி எல்லாம் எழுதியிருக்காரு.
வேலூர்ல கூட இருந்தாரு.
ஆமா, கலெக்டரா இருந்தாரு. ஆமா, my mother's father.
எங்க தாத்தா வேண்டப்பட்டாரு பாஸ்கர தொண்டைமான். ஒரு ஃபங்க்ஷன்ல அவர் ஹானர் பண்ணாரு.
It's time to drop the curtain.
Yes.
So, good afternoon all of you. Actually, நம்ம எல்லாருக்குமே ஒரு என்விரான்மெண்டல் இஷ்யூ ரிலேட்டடான ஒரு கான்ஃபரன்ஸ் அட்டெண்ட் பண்ண ஒரு ஃபீல் இருக்குன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஐ திங்க் யூ ஆல் அக்ரி வித் மீ. So today's session was yes. I have listened to ma'am students telling me repeatedly about how her classes used to be. More than that, outside the class, how what kind of motherly love she gives for her students actually. So it's a great privilege for all of us to listen to your insightful talk today, ma'am. And as Orisa said, I was also very curious why you had chosen this novel. After you talk about the novel, I too got very much inspired to just grab the novel and to read it in one sitting. So thanks for inspiring us all with your insightful review, ma'am. Thanks a lot. And with regard to what Ratnam sir has requested, like sir said, why can't you have a book review club in your college? It's under the pipeline. Our club coordinator Joycey has already spoken to the director of LIBA.
She's very close to the director.
And
very influential.
I've also spoken to the one of the staff members from LISIT to inaugurate one book club over there. And Prem, yet another club coordinator, he has spoken to a couple of other city colleges. So it's under the pipeline. So we are in the same wavelength, Ratnam sir. Thank you. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking your personal time off and to come over here. Today we have a new guest, newcomer for our book club. So I just wanted Joyce's friend to introduce himself. All others are known face. I think Shiny and yeah.
No, actually,
Please you can introduce yourselves. With that, we'll close the session.
no, yesterday I went to Hindu Literary Festival Music Academy. That time coincidentally happened to meet Bala sir. I told